The Circle of Knowledge podcast is brought to you by Amplified Minds, helping entrepreneurs and professionals achieve their goals and aspirations by sharing a wealth of knowledge to you, our community of achievers. This podcast features best-selling industry resources, interviews, and the professional panel discussion by the core team at Amplified Minds. Now, here are their discussions. Hey guys, this is Jon Kovach Jr. with the Circle of Knowledge podcast, sponsored by Amplified Minds. Hey, I'm tucked deep into the basements of the Grand Valley Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada, where there are two conferences going on right now. The first one is called the Investor Summit, where real estate investors are coming to learn and improve their knowledge and education in the backing of the real estate world and investment world. I'm also in between conferences at one called the Entrepreneur Summit, and keynote speakers include Robert Kurbacek, Shark Tank, and you've got Grant Cardone, Cardone University, and then you've also you got Damon John, the Shark Tank as well. There's some pretty cool stuff going on here. But anyways, I just had a podcast interview today, and you get to hear from Adrian Ellison, who is an incredibly connected and absolute expert in her health and wellness space. And she's going to say some things that are going to hit home. They're going to cut you to the core. And those things are exactly what you need to hear. And so I'm really excited to introduce this conversation and for you to learn a lot from her. Now, we just barely scratched the surface, but this is the Circle of Knowledge, where you are introduced to the things you need to know and how to apply them, and immediately where to obtain more information about them. So we look forward to this conversation. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Circle of Knowledge podcast. This is your host, Jon Kovach Jr. with the Amplified Minds Contacts and Network. Today's conversations and interview is with my good friend, Adrian Ellison, and I want to introduce her and give her an opportunity to talk a little bit about her and her story and what they are doing here in the health and wellness space and in that market. She's got a lot of really incredible projects, but before we get into that, we want to welcome you back to the show, and I'm really excited to have you introduced to Adrian and what she has and what her background is and how it can help you in your life. As a result of this conversation, we're going to have a really cool in-depth conversation about some really cool things that you may not have recognized or had been introduced to before in your life. So I'm really excited to have Adrian on the show. And Adrian, we only met 6 or 7 months ago at a LinkedIn local. And just from the beginning, I knew that this woman is incredible and has an attractive ability to bring all the most important people into her life and to influence them in a very, very exponential way. As a result, I'm here on the show with you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you so much.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
And this is the first introduction to the Circle of Knowledge podcast, but for our 15,000 listeners out there currently, I'd love for them to get to know you a little bit. And instead of me going on and saying what I think, I actually have a few stories that I'd like to share with my listeners about your and I connection, but I'd love for you to just give them a little bit of background about who you are, where you're from, and what your background is and why it's important.
Yeah. So I'm 27 years old, and I grew up in West Texas in a town with about 300 people in kind of the Panhandle. And I didn't have access to any of the information that I have now. Obviously, I just grew up in a small town. It's German Catholic community, so beer was top of the food pyramid. Cheese, brats, those kinds of things. And I grew up as an athlete. You don't really have a choice. When you grow up in a really small town, if you're not an athlete, when I grew up, so there was something wrong with you, physically. And so I was everything from I played basketball, I played tennis, I ran cross country, even though I was terrible at long distance. I was even a terrible cheerleader at one point. But really just played as much as I possibly could, stayed active. That was really all there was to do there. So when I was about 15 years old, I moved to Lubbock, Texas, a little bit bigger of a town. I was kind of a troublemaker. I had a lot of issues with mental health as far as depression and anxiety, but we didn't have words for it when I was growing up. So my parents had no idea. I could consume information at a really high rate, and I liked hanging out with adults more than kids, but I was a very annoying kid because of that. And so yeah, like growing up, I was constantly taking on information. I didn't do super well in school. I was more physical, and I loved people. I loved connecting with people, even though I didn't have any idea how to do it. I just wanted everybody to be my friend. I wanted to share as much value as I could. And really from a very early age, I learned that knowledge was a good compensation for getting people to want to be around you. So if I was always like the smartest person in the room, or if I had, knowledge that other people didn't have, then it would mean people would want to hang around me. Obviously, as I grew up, I realized the value of really people just want to connect. They want to be able to learn. They want to be able to take these different concepts and apply them to their life to have a better quality of life. That's what we're all searching for. And so I moved to Dallas when I was 19. I was working in a restaurant, bartending, working super late nights. And my depression was pretty bad at that point because I was really just in the party lifestyle, very unconscious. My health routines were pretty much, every couple of months, I'd eat a lot of kale salads. I'd eat some rice and some salmon. And then I would starve myself, go to the gym, do the yo-yo thing over and over and over again because, again, the mental health thing wasn't really talked about. And so it was really just, how do I compensate for all these feelings that I'm feeling? Well, if I go to the gym and I get skinnier and I, have people that want me more and I get more validation, then that really makes up for the fact that like I'm sad all the time. And so I went pretty heavy into the diet world. With very little information. I grew up eating a lot of fresh foods from our garden, and then I moved to the city, and it was like Taco Bell every day, and then kale salads, for a month, and then back to Taco Bell. And I really remember like the first time that I learned how to cook, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool, and it tastes pretty good, but it's a lot of work, So without like having any understanding of how to sustain it, it didn't last very long. And then I continued on that journey of just kind of yo-yoing back and forth and not really doing anything of value to myself and working really late nights, working the 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift, for 12 hours long, going home, sleeping for a couple hours, drinking a lot of alcohol. I got so bad to a point where I was taking like Adderall and these stimulants because I couldn't focus very well and I couldn't stay awake. But then to be able to balance that out, I was taking Ambien so that I could actually sleep at night. And all this time, my dad was actually getting really sick. And so I was about 5 hours away from home, hearing my mom call and say like, something's up with your dad. He's been in and out of the hospital. And we found out that he was having kidney failure. Yeah. And I don't know if you can hear me right? Because I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Yep. I
muted myself. Just to make sure. So when I found out he was getting sick, we kind of went through all the steps that you do, all the testing and everything. And we actually ended up getting this really sweet deal with one of our family members who matched up with the type of kidney that he needed to have pretty much. And we actually got him a kidney transplant, which was awesome. I was in Mexico at the time and we celebrated, and it was like the best day ever because my dad was my hero. He's such a badass. And for him to be so sick was like, it was like, when is this going to be over with? Like, this is not how it's supposed to be. Like, right. This is so crazy. And then all of a sudden he just started declining even worse. And doctors came back and they're like, well, we might've missed something. It looks like he didn't actually have renal failure. He had bone cancer, and, now he can't receive bone marrow because of the kidney transplant. And so that was my first experience in the medical kind of, whoa, what is happening here? We're out of control. These professionals that are supposed to be able to help and be able to make us healthier, they can't. And you take it to extremes. And in that case, it was like the control freak inside of me was like, I can fix this. I can do this. And so I got really desperate about information on nutrition. I got into juicing. I like accidentally started the meal prep company out of my mom's kitchen because I was cooking healthy meals for myself and my clients. And I was just trying to change my lifestyle as quickly as possible. I got into a lot of healing modalities like cryotherapy, fasting. I did like a 4-day water fast and really just kind of too late. My dad started declining so rapidly, and one thing led to another with being on dialysis and being on chemo, and then he caught meningitis. And before we knew it, we had like 10 days before we knew that he was probably going to pass away. And so that was like the start of my health journey, really, was this is not how I want to go out. This is not how I ever want to see anyone else go out. And really, if I couldn't save him, like I was hoping I could save everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that started the idea of I really want to take care of myself, but still didn't really know because no matter how healthy I was eating, my mental health was just tanking. And
Yeah.
it was almost like the pendulum would swing. It was like my mental health was better whenever I was eating healthier, but then I would think that it was what was curing me. And so, then I would dip out of it and my depression would get really low and it just swinging back and forth. And that caused a lot of inconsistencies and just a lot of disconnections because I was this person that had all this energy and so fiery and all this information. But then when I couldn't sustain that, I would isolate myself because I couldn't stand the fact of people knowing that I wasn't perfect all the time. Right. So that's kind of my history with before I got into Master Metabolic. I actually met the founder, the person who originally started Master Metabolic in the peak of my depression. So 2 years after my dad died, I was actually in keto, doing keto at the time, trying something new, really isolating myself. My friends hadn't seen me in months and a lot of them didn't even go to my dad's funeral. So I was like, I felt very alone at that time. And I met this guy out here and it didn't help. He was a massive looker. He's 6'4", he looks like Superman. He's in his upper 30s, but he looked like he was in his 20s. And somebody was like, hey, you should really check out what he's doing. So I came out here. He had this client and I thought he set this up. I was like, is this like, am I being filmed here? But this client came in and he'd had 200 pounds of fat loss. And it was like 180 pounds of fat loss, 30 pounds of muscle gain. And he had no skin. He looked incredible. And he hadn't even been Tommy, my partner's client, for over a year. And I thought like, whoa, this is like what people talk about on The Biggest Loser. Like when you get into the fitness industry, this is what you hope to do for people. And you never do it. It never happens, right? And so I was so blown away by that and all the stories that he had produced. And he was doing it in a small office because he had built this beautiful business and he really wanted it to be about people. And so he had separated from his business partners and built Master Metabolic just to serve people. And I was so inspired by it. I sold everything I owned and I moved out to Utah after I've only been here one time, 2 months later. So that's where that started. And then as I started to learn more than I've ever could even have imagined about nutrition and exercise and just the body in general, I began to realize like, wow, this is really the key to people's health. And I have so much information. I could actually change anybody's life at any time. I started running clients. Him and I were pulling in, like I was doing $20,000 in fitness a month on my own and he was doing 20 to 30. And we really built something really sustainable and we were getting only referrals. We never did marketing. It was just constantly referrals coming in. I had a couple of clients that went past their 100-pound of transformation mark. And
Wow.
the referral that you get from that is just intense, right? People are lined up at the door like, I want this, like, give me some of this. I started doing speaking events. I fell in love with speaking. I loved the idea of going into a room and surprising people, like talking about nutrition, exercise, which has been around forever. And everybody talks about it and coming in with information that people are like, wait a second, that sounds opposite of what I've learned. Like, oh, I can eat carbs or, really you can still have like, desserts or you can still do these things because at the end of the day, we're all human. And the healthiest information and what works at the very top level for top athletes in the world doesn't really work for somebody who has no foundation. So really just learning what that foundation was, changing people's lives. And where our company is headed now is that what we've realized is all the transformations, all the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds that people have lost, there's still a component missing, which is mental health. And no matter how much you get people to lose weight and how much information you give them, information is like really just one half of the puzzle. And the other half is how do we create these patterns? Where did they come from? And are we using them to empower ourselves or to punish ourselves? And that's really what we're working on right now is building software to, instead of sitting with clients and just writing their program every day, we're going to build software that they can create their own programs and learn how to write their own nutrition and exercise plans. And instead we spend time with them really in the personal development space. And that adds a lot more connection and community and gives us a lot more room to really get to know people and hold that space for them when they're trying to like transform more than just physically.
My goodness, Adrian, that was like Easter eggs and value and pure gold and all of that. And I'm like trying to catch up. And this is amazing. You guys see why we love Adrian. She has just so much to say. And she is a revolving, straight, automatic, let's call it semi-automatic shooting pistol, because she has information and story and value, and she has the incredible journey she's come from. So cool. Two thoughts before I ask you my next question. When I first met Adrian, we were at a networking event, and I introduced myself to Adrian as a public speaker, and she goes, "Oh, I speak too." And it was like that immediate connection of, hey, I love to connect with people, which is what you said at the beginning of the show. And it was immediate, like we just got along. There was just something about our attitudes and our personalities that just meshed very, very well. And I was like, okay, this is great. We went to coffee, and she introduced this incredible thing to me, which was everybody's bodies are different. There's not a one glove fits all result or solution for everybody out there. And so that's what Master Metabolic was all about. It was creating these solutions for people that actually work, that are customized to the people that create the solutions in their lives, whether it be losing 100 pounds or 200 pounds. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine? That's like losing a brick wall on your back. And then, from mastering that, and then also improving your mental health on the side, which is amazing that you come from that background, having experienced it yourself and have changed that. So my question for you is like, wow, what is the knowledge that people need to know in the process of starting to transition their life into a healthier, more wellness state than what they're currently doing now? Well, let's kind of feed in some knowledge to these people that what they probably believed before is probably a myth, and they need to start believing the new and important information that's actually true.
Yeah. So kind of going back to what you said is like, there's, the glove that's like not one size fits all. And the answer to like my rebound to that is like, that is true and also not true, in the sense of there's a million different things that you can do. And actually a lot of them are really great for healing and health. The problem is that when we take these healing modalities without any kind of foundation, then what you're doing is you're leaving a lot of room for confusion. And this is like number one problem with the health industry, is everybody is so confused. Like, is intermittent fasting good? Is keto good? People don't know the difference between a foundation and a lifestyle and something that's more like a biohack, something that can get you there faster, or that can actually change your body on a cellular level. If you have come from a background where you've eaten a lot of processed foods, and then no matter what you're doing that's healthier, if you go from 0 to 100, it is bad for the body. And I mean that. I mean, if you go from eating fast food every day to kale salads the next week, it is bad for the body. And it's because there is no progression. There isn't what are you communicating to your body? And our bodies are probably physically the craziest and most in-depth communication that we could ever receive. And we don't listen to them. And so when somebody's trying to be healthier and they're just jumping the gun, they're diving into the deep end, and the deep end is full of a lot of great things, but they dive in head first and they get hurt and it doesn't feel good, and they're constipated, or they get the keto flu, or they get, they get die-off, really bad die-off, because we're a society that eats a ton of sugar. So when you're eating sugar, you're feeding fungus in the body. Everybody's got fungus. It's disgusting. It's just one of those things. We've all got it, right? And I'm no stranger to that too. I spent 2 years trying to get rid of the candida overgrowth in my body from all the antibiotics I took when I was younger, from all the sugar that I ate when I was younger. And really what saved me was not a single specific diet, but building a foundation that allowed me to feel stable, meaning that I had a nice little run of, this is exactly what I should eat in a day. Here is each meal. And, again, like intermittent fasting is great. Keto can be really great. Pretty much everything that has to do with eating whole foods, if it's you're putting food that's real in your body, high vibration food, is great. But if you don't understand the substitutions to make, so, you go like, oh, I'm going to eat avocados all day, and I know nuts are good for me, and like, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then salmon. But then you're not realizing how incredibly calorie dense these foods are. Now you have somebody that's trying to lose weight and they're gaining weight because they're eating things that are really high in calories, and they don't know. And then they're like, well, this doesn't work for me. High fat's not the way for me, and then it's like, everybody's like, oh, low carb or high carb is terrible for you. Actually, what's terrible for you is switching around so much and creating inconsistency in the body, which creates trauma and blood sugar spikes and drops, and communicates to the body that you cannot be trusted. So everything that goes in is a really bad communication of, this isn't going to stay, or it's not going to sustain, or, what is this? This is foreign. And really the idea is, what we try to do at Master Metabolic is create a foundation for a person that's coming into their journey and really doesn't have any type of that foundation to make them feel stable. And how do you create this entire week meal plan of stability so that each week they can start to learn something new progressively? And when they're making substitutions, it's not, all over the place, and there's not a lot of confusion with it. Once you eliminate confusion and you have this foundation laid really well and the cracks are filled, then you can start playing around with all sorts of other types of diet modalities like keto, like intermittent fasting, right? You can start doing things that don't add more trauma to the body. So that's my number one advice is whatever you do, whatever you decide to do, if you don't have a foundation, there's a good chance that it's not going to work the way that it was intended to work. And you're going to be left with feelings of failure and left with confusion, which really is almost like not even starting at ground zero, but regressing, because now you have more trauma and, you know, more weight gain and more things going on in the body than you had before. And that is what I see mostly with the yo-yo dieters, the ones that are flipping and switching all the time, is they're really burning out that metabolic rate by either losing too much muscle or communicating that the conversion of energy is not necessary. And then the other advice is no matter how healthy you eat and clean you eat and things like that, we live in a society where we're very sedentary. And even if you go to the gym every day, as an American, you are probably very sedentary compared to what we were supposed to be doing. So nothing replaces movement and dynamic movement. Yoga's not bad or good. Lifting's not bad or good. They're relative compared to what your goals are, but dynamics, right? Being able to get a little bit of everything, which is what the human body is. It's so dynamic. And so those are my two bits of advice that are maybe easier to follow, is scratch all the stuff that's flying at you and smacking you in the face that you feel like, this is extreme. If it's extreme, it's probably not for you right now. If it feels like baby steps, which nobody wants to hear, that is your next step. Instead of going from 0 to 100, let's go from 0 to 20 and just see how that feels for a week.
I absolutely love that. And I think the principle that you mentioned, that the things that you go from 0 to 100 in consuming can really hurt you and really hurt your body. I would only ask, and I'm asking you because you're my resource and expert in this subject. If you were to start going to the gym and you went from 0 to 100, that is also bad for you, because we are sedentary beings, right? We are constantly sitting down. Our jobs, our lifestyles, we are currently evolving to sit more, right? If you ever watched what's that cartoon, Wall-E, where the people and the humans are up in space and they're all just sitting in their little cubes consuming food. Anyways, it's just, but yeah, so you confirm that you know, anything like that from 0 to 100 is really bad for your body, because your body's not going through its adjustment stages to become that part of the lifestyle. Is that right?
Yeah, so working out is interesting, because people think you go work out, it's really good for you, you build muscle. That's literally not what happens at all when you go work out. You go work out and it creates slight stress on your body, meaning that your body's like, oh no, this is not good. But it's acute stress. It's just enough to condition the body to heal quickly in case it comes around again. So it's the same mechanism for, like, if you went from being an entry-level employee and then the next day you showed up to work and you were the CEO, the amount of stress and your capacity to handle that stress, it doesn't even exist. You can't create it out of thin air. So going to the gym and showing up one day when you haven't worked out, you know, for the last couple of years, and then going 6 days in a row, you're not building muscle. You're actually breaking down muscle, but your body is not conditioned to understand how to recover that quickly. And so without that foundation, again, it's going to lead to injury. It's going to lead to more stress response in the body attacking its own immune system and trying to communicate what's going on. This isn't right. And that's really like a pretty sad deal, but you see it a lot, especially like right before vacation.
And then the other thing I love that you confirmed that, and that's an incredible principle I think everyone needs to know, because it's something that we don't know. And the other thing too is just getting our bodies back to what they're supposed to be feeling. You know, if you're hearing this, if you're listening to this episode and you're listening to what Adrian is telling you, just know that there are things that you should be feeling. Your body is meant to feel good because it was produced chemically to have certain feelings based on your scenarios. And one of the things that I think most about is, you know, if you're constantly sleeping or feeling tired, excuse me, or you constantly want to nap, or there's certain things that you just don't feel good, and it's not like I feel 100% I can go run a mile, or I can feel good about my body, I can feel good about everything I'm doing. There's probably something wrong in what you're consuming, in your behaviors and what your typical lifestyle is, there's something that needs to be changed. And that's what I'm confirming, that I'm learning from you. And it's like, wow, this is so obvious, but yet that's not what we're being taught. That's not what's being thrown at us every day when we go into social media, or when we're reading the news or whatever. We get all these things thrown at us, like, these are good for you, these are good for you, these are bad for you. But really, it's just learning about how to feel good as a human being. Is that right?
Yeah, the body whispers before it screams.
Oh my gosh. Pure gold, Adrian. Just stop. This is so gold. I love it. That is incredible knowledge. And I appreciate you sharing it. And I know that we are just barely scratching the surface. I mean, I'm so naive to this topic of the health and wellness industry, but yet I'm learning every day. But we are hardly scratching the surface of what's possible and what we could learn more about. But like you said, there's probably things that you know that just haven't been introduced to you the right way. And I freaking love that. Let's think of a challenge that we can issue to some of our listeners that they can apply immediately today to help improve themselves or improve their knowledge moving forward, so that they can take better steps in the health and wellness of their life.
Yeah, I mean, man, people hate this answer, but
it's what
I would see journaling, like journaling about what you're putting in your body and how it makes you feel. Not only how it makes you feel physically, but emotionally. Like the things that, if I'm having to give clients advice on the fly, is it good for you? Is it enjoyable? And is it convenient? Because if it's two but not three of those things, it's not sustainable. So as much as it's like, yes, I would love to go and eat a salad and like have superfoods in it and be filled with things that are like extremely nutrient dense, micronutrients, but I'm in an airport. And so instead of saying like, I'm going to do that, then I'm just going to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to go get fast food. Right. And it's, again, that 0 to 100 mentality. And really we should be able to track, like, where are you at inside that mindset? Where are you at all the time with food? I have clients all the time that say things like, well, I just snack after dinner. It's just part of who I am. You're not going to change it. I've done it ever since I was a kid. And I really challenge that, because why have you done that ever since you were a kid? And it's not because you just like something after dinner. I mean, that's like saying, you know, that there's so many things that we like after dinner, right? You don't just continue to do things over and over again because you like them and just let it take over your entire life. You have like other different things in your life that you have discipline with. It's just this one thing that you don't have an awareness around. And without awareness, like, patterns are patterns and they stay forever. To reprogram them, you have to start with awareness. And I think journaling is a really great way to write down, like, this is what I had for breakfast, this is how I felt physically, this is how I felt emotionally. And then trying to understand, like, is this sustainable for me to do moving forward? And if the answer is yes, then you can really start tracking all these different sustainable things that you've created or meals that you've created. And if the answer is no, well, it's not that you failed, it's you're one step closer to really having food freedom and understanding that.
Right. Oh man, I absolutely love that. Incredible value. I think for our listeners at home, and they're like, because you said it yourself, people hate this answer, right? Journaling. Yeah. There are resources to make the journaling process easier for you. Okay. For example, about a year ago, I started journaling through audio recordings, and I auto transcribe my audios to a journal, which actually ended up becoming the result of my first book. And it's an editing process right now, so I'm almost done with that. But it only took me a few months to just record my thoughts and transcribe it into a book that became what now is going to be one of my most credible features. But at the same time, there are ways to simplify the journaling process. This isn't just writing things down, but it's recording, right? Recording things as they happen. There's a great app out there. I just downloaded it the other day to check it out, and I'm actually approving it. It's called the Day One app. It just is a great way to either write, type, say, speak, or video days at a time to grab your progress. And so I love that. I love that that's your answer, because there are ways to make this easier, but people just don't like to do it because they have this thing in their mind that says, oh, I have to sit down and write something out. There are ways to improve. So I just wanted to share that out as a resource in case, people were just dreading that challenge, because I absolutely love that. It's the thing that's going to punch you in the face, because it's what you've been hearing this whole time.
Yeah. And I think that it's important when you're journaling to realize that you are not any of the emotions that you feel. So when you're journaling about a way that food makes you feel, it's not really the food, and it's actually not you, it's just you're experiencing a feeling. And so when you're journaling about what you're going through, like trying to sit and observe the emotions as they fly around you versus like attaching to them and saying like, oh, this is me. And I hear that all the time. People say, well, I'm bored. Like, you're experiencing boredom for sure, but as you program yourself to believe that you're bored, like you're communicating to your body the same way that food communicates to your body. And now it begins to have this story that's really being overwritten over everything else. And now you are bored. That's just who you are. You know, the same thing with depression. I'm depressed. For sure. Like you've conditioned the body into believing that that is what you are. Whereas you might be experiencing depression on a regular basis, but that's just one emotion out of, you know, a lot of other emotions and a lot of other states of being. And the less that we attach to them, the more that we can really create awareness around what these patterns are with food and exercise, and how we can start to kind of shift them.
I love that. And I wanted to call something out here. Our listeners are going to hear you, and then they're going to hear me on this episode, and they're going to see that Jon's trying to navigate this conversation based off his naive understanding of the health and wellness space. And then they hear Adrian, and she has this refined message about how it really is and how it can help. And I love that you've done that, because there is an incredible knowledge. You guys, Adrian is up here when it comes to the expert knowledge on this stuff, and she has built an incredible company behind it to educate and help people behind it. And here I am trying to navigate all this, and I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I love it because
you're killing it.
Every time I talk to Adrian, I learn 100 million things, and I need to go and journal those things, because again, that was so key for our listeners to hear, which was, you are not the emotion you're feeling. And that is, if I know anything or learned anything today, that's going to help me a ton and help our listeners know that that is an applicable principle as right now, as you sit today, you'll be able to do that. And that is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And like I said, we're just barely scratching the surface. I know it. So we would love to have you back on the show again as often as we can. And we're looking forward to working with you guys as much as we can in the future, promoting what you guys do at Master Metabolic. Was there anything that you wanted to tell our listeners about Master Metabolic in case that they had interest in learning more about you, your company, and some of the things and offers that you guys have currently?
Yeah, we're growing really fast. So, you know, we have a lot of clients coming in, and we're just opening the doors to everyone who is looking to build that foundation. And on top of building the foundation, we do a lot of fine tuning too with a lot of athletes. We've worked with some Olympians and some people that are training for specific things. And I didn't touch a lot on that because that's a very, very small percentage of the world. And we have a large referral base with that. But really what we're trying to build here is just a home for people who are really confused, and they're just looking for that foundation that we can help them build. And then when they go off on their own, you know, they can create whatever abundance they want to outside of that. We talked about offering a 10% discount for any of your listeners. So they can contact us either through just our website, www.mastermetabolic.com, METABOLIC. It's a mouthful, but yeah, you can Google it too. And then also just info@mastermetabolic.com. You can reach out with that. You can follow us on Instagram. We have a Facebook page. We're not super social media gurus. We spend a lot of time with just clients, but we also host workshops and just provide a lot of this information. And a lot of our workshops are really based more around personal development. We do some like breath work and getting into just creating this parasympathetic, this rest and digest state, because when people are going into these, like, why do I have these eating patterns? It's really difficult for them to navigate that from a fight or flight response of like, I'm so stressed out and now I'm trying to create thoughts based on that. And so we have so many different things that we're doing very differently that are really just about giving back to self and connecting with self, so that when you're learning these things, they're less of there for defense or for protection or for punishment, but they're there for just an added value to who you are. So I think that's pretty much it.
We appreciate that offer and all that you've given to our listeners, including the knowledge, the challenge, and then that 10% is amazing. We'll have all the information about that in our show notes of this episode, so you can check that out. And to get a hold of Adrian or Master Metabolic in general, to learn about them and to be a opportunistic learner from what they can offer to you is an incredible offer. So thank you so much for doing that. We do not pressure or ask any of our participants on the show to do that, but they are always willing to give. And that's why they're part of our network, because the more we give, the more we receive in the end. And I absolutely love that. Adrian, thank you so much for being on our show, and thank you for being a part of our world and our network and offering that information and knowledge to those people. We hope that we can send as many people as we can over to you, because we know that what you guys are doing is obviously changing lives. It is incredibly helping people who absolutely need it, and we appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's such an honor, and I look forward to next time.
Awesome. Thank you. Wow, so that conversation with Adrian was incredible. After the show, we had a great conversation about some more podcast episodes that we're going to record together in regards to some of the stuff that she is working on. I hope you enjoyed that content, and I believe that the things that she shared with you are absolute pure gold. Now, to improve your health and wellness, to increase the abilities in your life, please reach out to Master Metabolic at the links below in the show notes. Thanks for enjoying and participating with our network as the Circle of Knowledge listeners, and we appreciate you, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. To learn more about Amplified Minds, go to our website at amplifiedminds.com. That's AMPLIFIEDMINDS.com. If you like the Circle of Knowledge podcast, go ahead, subscribe, rate us, and if you give us a 5-star review, we promise to give you a personal shout out here on the air. Just watch us. Through our website, you can join any one of our mastermind groups from anywhere in the world. In the mastermind groups, you and other members of the community of achievers can mastermind and talk about all of your aspirations, your dreams, your goals, and even the challenges you face. Whether you're a business owner or an entrepreneur or anything else, you can achieve your goals through a mastermind group. You should also check out the Amplified Minds Accountability Program, where you can gain access to a one-on-one personal accountability coach, somebody who will contact you weekly and motivate you, hold you accountable, follow up, and give you the proper resources that will help you to go out and achieve all your goals.